On the line with us is a former senior advisor to Vice President Joe Biden, the former director of Latino Affairs and the director of administration in the office of the vice president under both Clinton and Obama. Moe Vela, the website joebiden.com, Twitter @JoeBiden. Mo, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your last name. Tell me, correct me if I am. Welcome to the program. What do you see playing out right now?
Oh, hey, well, Tom, first of all, thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be with you. Thanks for what you do for our progressive community around the nation. Look, I think this is, first of all, I never thought tomorrow's my 59th birthday, and I never dreamed that on my journey of life I would ever see what we're seeing today with the dismantling of our democracy, with the hatred and the vile behavior on the Republican side, and nobody really, no Republican being patriotic enough in the Senate or in Congress to stand up to this tyrant. So, you know what, Tom? I'm stupefied, to be honest with you. I never thought I'd see it.
Yeah, it is pretty extraordinary. Tell me about Amy Coney Barrett. What impact? First of all, you were the director of Latino Affairs in the office of Vice President Biden, if I have that correct.
That is correct.
What impact would her presence on the court have? I mean, in one particular case, she ruled that somebody using the N-word does not produce a hostile workplace. Right?
Listen, this is such a very delicate topic, in my opinion, because I am one of the few Democrats you probably have on your show who recognizes that, regrettably, unfortunately, everything that's wrong with it, it's a foregone conclusion that she's going to be, the next Supreme Court justice. So
I think that's obvious now.
Yeah, well, I go through this inner conflict because a lot of Democrats are, like, we got to stop it. We got to. The reality is, chances of stopping her nomination are slim to none. So there's a part of me that, frankly, says we just need to face the reality that she's, wrongly so, right? She's going to end up being on the court. So your question is, will that impact? Well, listen, I also was senior advisor to Vice President Biden and Gore on LGBTQ issues. So both on the Latino front and the LGBTQ front, Amy Coney Barrett is extremely, extremely dangerous to my two communities. Frankly, she's dangerous to most Americans and our basic civil rights. On the gay side, we've got to worry about gay marriage. On the gender side, we've got to worry about a woman's right to choose. On the Latino side, when she doesn't think calling somebody the N-word is a hostile work environment, something's wrong with you, Tom. Something is fundamentally wrong with you as a human being when you think that that's not hostile. And so the bottom line is, to answer your question, she's dangerous.
Yeah. So, this is a big concern. I think that, Joe Biden this morning saying we need to do something to fix all this. I mean, he pointed out that courts of appeals can have one has 19 members. That's not abnormal. Yeah. In fact, that's how our courts have evolved. It's time for the Supreme Court to evolve as well. Mo, last question. It's our question of the day for our listeners. This guy in Germany has been arrested for pepper spraying a jogger who ran by him within a foot and a half of him refusing to wear a mask. And the guy was wearing a mask, the 71-year-old. And so, our question, is it appropriate to use bear spray if somebody gets in your face and starts, yelling Trump stuff at you without a mask?
I predict that we will end up with, if the longer this pandemic continues to survive and just haunt us all in our daily lives, I actually do believe that there will come a time where it will be okay to use bear spray on somebody who refuses to wear a mask, when it's within 6 feet of you. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I, as an openly gay man growing up in the AIDS pandemic, it eventually became criminal, if you will recall, and it still is in many jurisdictions, to knowingly engage in behavior that could pass on the HIV virus. And I actually believe we're going to end up there with this virus as well. It's lethal. And if you know that you have it, or you know that you could have it and you put somebody else at jeopardy, I don't see how that is not criminally liable.
Yeah, I'm tending to completely agreeing with that point of view. Moe Vela, former senior advisor to Vice President Biden, JoeBiden.com, the website, IWillVote.com, of course, also be sure to check that out. Mo, thanks a lot for dropping by. It's great talking with you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me. And I want to remind your listeners, vote, please vote. Thank you, Tom.
There you go. Amen. Thank you, Mo. Great talking with you. Fascinating times we live in, right? Alejandro in Miami. Hey, Alejandro, what's up?
Hello, Tom. I just wanted to, discuss the whole tort debate you were mentioning about whether someone is committing a battery. Whether you have the right of self-defense to use bear mace, and I just want to point out how tricky that is. Very legal. Legal scenario. It just reminds me of my tort class. I'm a lawyer, went to law school and stuff. So, for us, what a battery means, this is like under general negligence law, like tort law, is a common law. A battery is the tort of intentionally and voluntarily bringing about an unconsented, harmful, or offensive contact with a person or to something closely associated with them, such as a bag or purse. So I definitely see at first glance when you said that story about the German, jogger, I would have said, no, he has no right to use bear mace because you just can't bear mace people indiscriminately just because you're afraid of them getting too close to you. If you just happen to walk by, and there's a potential slippery slope there of, well, I can just spray everybody who gets too close to me.
Well, there is actually right now in Germany a law. I mean, they're enforcing it in different ways around the country, but social distancing, keeping 6 feet away from people is the law in many parts of Germany. I don't know if it is in this particular town of Aachen, but, but back to you, Alejandro.
No. Well, I mean, definitely. Well, definitely don't claim to be a German civil law expert. I only speak about U.S. common law.
Me neither.
Right. No, it's just important. I mean, maybe if that's the case, and that would change the argument over there. But definitely in the U.S., I'm just going off generalities, of course, and then it can go to specific scenarios. Generally, right? Okay. This is what we do in law school. Go for hypotheticals. In certain instances, maybe bear mace can be used as self-defense. I just think in the first scenario, if you're just walking by and if someone gets too close to you, I don't think you can bear mace them because I think that would be a battery onto them, right? Even though, of course, no one should get within 6 feet of you because of the coronavirus pandemic going around. However, what that person said earlier about the HIV pandemic, I think is very applicable here. When the HIV/AIDS was, there's laws against people, purposely transmitting AIDS or engaging in conduct that would transmit AIDS or HIV. The same can be said for coronavirus. You could definitely criminalize that. If you have, if you're positive, how Trump was, and you go to rallies or you go to close contact with people knowing that you have a deadly disease that could kill someone, I definitely think that's a battery because obviously that you're engaging in harmful conduct. I mean, and there's definitely physical contact there because it goes
to get very serious about this, Alejandro. Back in the 80s, and this is, Mo was speaking to this as an openly gay man. Back in the 80s, there were a number of states, mostly Republican-controlled states, that, and in fact, this was something that the Republicans actually ran on in the elections of 84 and 86. There were states that passed laws specifically criminalizing basically gay sex because if they didn't know what caused AIDS back then, and there was this thing about, maybe, if you have sex with if a gay man has sex with another person, then he could be spreading HIV. So they were trying to criminalize gay sex or gay behavior, not just kissing and everything else, based on HIV specifically. Some states named HIV because somewhere in the middle of there, they figured out that it was this one particular virus, or maybe it was toward the end of that. But other states didn't name the virus. They simply said, if you knowingly, spread a communicable and deadly disease to another person, you're guilty of a felony. And therefore, in those states, I think that law could be applied to somebody like the person who got up in Louise's face here, a week or so ago and started yelling at her to go on YouTube and check out the conspiracy videos that would prove to her that masks are a hoax, right? I mean, this guy was dead serious about this, and he was getting close.
Yeah, no, and I think in those scenarios where somebody gets too close, whether they know it or not, but they should know better because there's a pandemic going around. So I would say there's a duty for other people not to infect others. You don't have and I think this reminds me of what a judge in West Palm Beach said about regarding mask mandates and some plaintiffs were challenging that. And I think the judge was very correct in his decision. He said, you don't have a right to infect others. And I think that's very important to understand, especially with those, supposed freedom-loving people. Oh, the mask is, wearing a mask is, muzzle or whatever. That's nonsense. That's nonsense under the law. The state has the police powers to enforce health mandates. There's nothing unconstitutional about that. It's not depriving your freedom. Coronavirus doesn't care about your freedom. So I think it's definitely important to.
Yeah. Fascinating. Alejandro, thank you. It's great talking to a lawyer about this. It's fascinating stuff.